All right, there you can see me. I'm out of the hospital. Happy New Year, belated. So I don't know how many of you actually watched the video where I talked about what happened back in November. Before I get to my rant, I actually put together some materials for the show tonight, but it took me so long to get my camera working again, which I'll go over here in a minute, that this is going to be an off the cuff show and maybe answering some questions if you all have any questions and that kind of thing. But for those of you who have no idea where I went and what happened over the last couple of months and didn't watch that short video I put up in December, it says December update. Back in early November, actually, right after I did that last show where I said I was moving, I ended up losing the use of my legs. Well, my right leg completely and my left leg partially. And I had to go to the emergency room after a couple of days of flopping around on my floor. And it got worse and worse. It got to where my right leg was basically dead wood. I mean, I had to pick it up by hand, and I mean, I couldn't use it at all. Couldn't move it. Nothing. I could feel everything, but I thought I had a pinched nerve. So I was trying to tough it out and wait for that pinched nerve to go away. I laid on the floor and laid on my back and did some stretching as best as I could and that kind of thing. And my dad lives down in Alabama, and I had to call him because I was in Ohio, and I didn't have any other support structure up there. I was getting ready to move, as y'all know, and I had to call him and have him come up to Indiana or Ohio, and basically he got there and had to pick me up off the floor. I went to the emergency room, and 10 minutes after I was there, the doctor said, "We're going to have to do some tests, but I'm fairly certain you have multiple sclerosis." So I said, "Well, that's not possible, because thanks for the timing along with zany bars I can pass out." That's probably some nutbag right there. Anyway, so she said I had multiple sclerosis. Well, my sister has MS, and she got diagnosed like 10 years ago. So I had a pretty good idea of what MS was. And back when I realized I had a neck injury and I was started trying to treat that and keep my spine healthy, I looked up MS because I thought maybe I had that. And I actually talked to a doctor, and he said the odds of you having MS are pretty slim. This is back in 1998. Well, they did the tests on me, and yes, I had multiple sclerosis. So evidently, my whole spine, my neck is riddled with it. I've had some damage in my brain, I guess. And at that point, back in November, I had a 6-inch piece of my spine, my thoracic spine, that was being attacked at the time. So they had to put me on solumedrol. What do you call it? Not hormones, but that kind of thing. Basically, it's kind of like chemotherapy for MS. And they put me on that for a couple of weeks, and to stop it from attacking me and that kind of thing. Yeah, Lyme disease is very similar to MS. It's actually one of the ones that they have to make sure you don't have before they can say you have MS. Yeah. And I still can't walk right. This is 2 months later. I can actually make my way across the floor just this last week without a cane. But I walk very slowly like a 90-year-old man. I can't walk fast because I'll fall over. I have balance issues. And if I stand up like to wash dishes or whatever, after about 2 or 3 minutes, I start to get very tired, from my about my midsection down and my legs. And I slowly start to crumple over, and I can't stop myself, and I have to go sit down, rest for about 15 minutes, and get back up. So that's where I'm at. And then then my dad brought me down to Alabama. I was going to move to Florida and then come up to Alabama with my mom and my sister. And then I was going to get a motorhome and go out, looking for Bigfoot and that kind of thing, like I've mentioned in the past. So instead, he brought me straight down to Alabama, where I've been since about the middle of December. And when I got here, my nephew, who's about 8 years old, came over to my house and made me very sick because my immune system had been run down by the Solumedrol and whatever else they were giving me in the hospital. And I got very sick. I had bronchitis really bad. I was on the verge of pneumonia. I had a really high fever and all that stuff. And I just got over that. Yesterday, I think, was the first day that I felt back to being healthy again. Prior to that, the weird thing is, now that I have this MS, when you get really sick like that, like when you have the flu and you get run down, well, with the MS, it's much, much worse. I actually had to start using a walker again to get around because I was so run down that the MS fatigue was much worse and I could barely get around. So anyway, that's where I'm at now. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to walk normal again. I seem to be, my progress is getting slower and slower, almost like I'm getting to a plateau. I hope I'm going to get better. I'll still try to get out there in the woods. I mean, I live down here in Alabama. Evidently, there's I forget what it is, but there's the white fang of Alabama around here, which is a white Bigfoot. There's been Bigfoot sightings within 8 miles of where I live now, so I'm going to get out there and start checking this stuff out. There's been a lot of Bigfoot activity around here in this area, and I can understand it. It's very, as they say, squatchy around here. A lot of woods, a lot of waterways. As a matter of fact, I think it's called Guntersville, and there's a thing called the Guntersville Monster, I think is what they call it. But down in Guntersville, there are 2 rivers, 2 major waterways that come down and converge at a lake down in Guntersville, which is about, I guess it's about 30, maybe a little less than 40 miles south of here. And these 2 waterways come down on, one on the west of Alabama, one on the east of Alabama, and they converge and make this lake called, I think it's Guntersville Lake. And there's a lot of sightings around there, and they call it the Guntersville Monster, Guntersville Monster. Well, I looked on Google Earth, and the waterway that comes down on the west, down into Guntersville, comes from land between the lakes. The waterway that comes from the right comes from the Smoky Mountain National Forest and, the Appalachian Trail and all that kind of stuff up there. So we have these 2 major Bigfoot areas. I mean, land between the lakes, you got mean ones up there. And, the Appalachian Trail, obviously there's a lot of activity up in there in Smoky Mountain National Forest. And both of these waterways come down into Alabama and they come together at Guntersville, which is south central Alabama. It's only about 30 to 40 miles south of me. So I'm going to be going down there and checking that stuff out. But I thought it was very interesting because it means that, if Bigfoot's going to travel, they travel these major waterways. It makes perfect sense that down here in Guntersville, we're going to have these 2 different temperaments of Bigfoots coming together down at Guntersville. Might even be some gang fights and stuff between the Bigfoot. I'm only kidding. I don't want y'all saying, oh, you're saying they're doing gang fights. I'm only kidding. But you know what I mean? 2 different temperaments clashing. But it also explains why some of the people who have had sightings down here talk about the Bigfoots being mean and going after them and attacking them. And, some of them are like, they're not mean. So, you have 2 completely different strains or social structured Bigfoots coming down from 2 different areas. The land between the lakes is famous for having very aggressive and nasty Bigfoots. Anyway, I wanted to go onto a little rant about Bigfoot researchers, because I've been, even though I've been down and out, I have been kind of keeping up with what's been going on somewhat out there. And one thing that's bugged me for years is Bigfoot researchers first of all, and I've brought this up before, and somebody said, somebody attacked me about it, but I never did finish my thought. Bigfoot researchers, there's very few, if any, Bigfoot researchers out there. And the reason is because what research are you doing? You know, unless you're educated to do scientifically structured or whatever research, you can't call yourself a researcher. Now, if you want to call yourself a Bigfoot investigator, I'm good with that. That's fine, because you're investigating Bigfoot and the sightings and the witnesses and that kind of thing. But all these guys out there want to call themselves Bigfoot researchers, and I almost fell into it myself because so many of them out there call themselves researchers. You know, you just kind of think, well, that's what you are if you're out here checking stuff out, until I sat down and I thought about it and said, no, that's not a Bigfoot researcher. I mean, if you're doing research, to me, it's somebody who's actually educated in the discipline of doing scientific research, and you're applying it to Bigfoot. That would be a researcher. If you're going to do research like in textbooks and that kind of thing, or like newspaper research and that kind of stuff, okay, I can understand yourself calling yourself a researcher there. I mean, that's still kind of valid. But to me, the most appropriate way of referring to yourself is to call yourself a Bigfoot investigator, meaning that you're investigating Bigfoot. And these guys out here who call themselves Bigfoot researchers, who are, I guess, getting these reports and stuff, and some of them, they do these YouTube videos, and they all say, I'm not going to give away the actual location, because I don't want people going out there and trying to hunt them. To me, that's just horseshit. What you're doing is you're trying to make sure that nobody else can go out there and check it, investigate the situation. Could there be valid concerns about this, about people going out there and hunting them and that kind of thing? Sure, I suppose. And I know that there are some people out there who will feel that way, that they don't want to give it out. They are genuinely concerned that there'll be a bunch of people out there with guns looking to bag themselves a Bigfoot. And I know that there could be areas where you could be concerned that people are going to go out there and try to bag a Bigfoot, and they're actually going to end up accidentally shooting people, like kids or old people or whatever, bullets going through people's houses. If it happens to be in an area where there's, like a suburban neighborhood or something like that, sure, I could understand you being concerned about that. But I'm getting tired of when you listen to these podcasts and watch these YouTube shows and that kind of thing, and the guy says, "Oh, I've got this report of by so and so." Now, I can understand not giving out their name if they want to stay anonymous, that's another thing. But so and so who has this kind of job, but I'm not going to give out the area because I don't want people going out there and hunting. To me, that's a cop out. That's crap. Obviously, if you're not the only person they spoke to about this, people can eventually find out where it is. You're just trying to slow them down so that it takes them a lot longer to get out there. And I heard this one guy, I'm not going to say who he is. I'm not going to say who he is on YouTube, but who says this, and it's just annoying that he did it, because he'd say, I like to make sure things stay anonymous, and that's just the way it is, because that's the way I was raised and all that. If you really are concerned with Bigfoot and it being discovered and being identified or recognized by the government as a species, why are you keeping crap a secret? And then people with video and people with photos. I don't know how many times I've heard these people who, everybody in the community, or a lot of people in the community, give a lot of credibility to these people as being these experts. And these people will say, yeah, I've got all kinds of video of Bigfoots and all kinds of photos of Bigfoots, but I don't put it up online because, I don't want people to be saying, well, you did CGI or you did this or you did that. Well, if you're worried about a little criticism, then you need to just shut up and say you don't believe in Bigfoot and just let other people handle it. If you can't take the criticism, I get a lot of criticism, a lot of nutbags coming on here talking about, I don't know, I'm crazy and all this stuff because I believe in Bigfoot. If you can't handle that, then you shouldn't be doing it. Don't get on here and say, I've got all of this evidence and I'm going to keep it to myself because I don't want everyone saying it's not real. Put it out there. Let it come under scrutiny. I mean, if you don't know who can give you a realistic review, or doctors do it for peer review when they write papers and that kind of thing. You can call it peer review in the Bigfoot community. If you cannot handle peer review of your supposed evidence, your video and your pictures, then I got to wonder about you. And then when other people are saying, I give this guy so much credibility, he's the greatest researcher or whatever, but he puts out nothing. I got to wonder what's going on there. How real is this guy? I could mention a few off the top of my head, but I usually get attacked pretty bad when I mention some of these. It's just across the board. If they're telling you that they have footage and they're telling you that they have photos and they're not producing them, why do you believe them? Why does anybody believe them? If I had video of a Bigfoot and I had photos of a Bigfoot, I'd put them up here. I wouldn't care if anyone wanted to say, oh, that's a guy in a suit or whatever. I'd say, all right, that's your opinion. If you want to think it's a guy in a suit, I know better. That's all. Why would you take it to heart that somebody out there who's overly skeptical doesn't believe you? So what? All of these researchers out here, they're really investigators who have this footage. If you really have footage and you really have photos that aren't just blob squatches, then put it out there. Hold on a second. Let me read some of these comments. Most people back out the last minute. I don't know. Invite people to your area. I don't understand. Are you talking to somebody else? Because it looks like I'm breaking in the middle of a conversation. Dave Dog, hang in the best you can, brother. I appreciate you in your show. You've got some real knowledge. Yeah, thanks, Dave. Oh, by the way, thanks everybody for the well wishes and the prayers. While I was going through all of this stuff, it was a crazy time. It just hit me all of a sudden, and it took me out big time. Not trying to prove it real, do it for your own curiosity. Okay. Yeah, that's that's good. I guess I do that too. I would, or I'm going to, as soon as I'm able to actually. I'm going to be Bigfoot chow when I get out there because I could, even if I get to where I can walk a little bit better, I'm not going to, probably never in my life ever going to be able to run again. So when I get out in the woods, I'm going to be Bigfoot chow. And I'm going to go out there and do it for my own, not curiosity. I've seen one up very close. I know they're out there. So it's nothing about curiosity. But actually, I'd like to see the whole body. I saw, this much of it. I didn't get to see the whole body. I'd really like to see the whole body, even though I think that I will probably have to, it'd be an underwear changing moment for damn sure. But, I'd like to see the whole thing. And if possible, find some areas around here, like where I can fairly, if it's even possible. Some people say it's very easy to find them. If it's possible to where I can go out there and say once a week at least come across one and, kind of check them out and get some insight as to how they act and that kind of stuff. I'd love that. That would be cool. Not to become like who is it, Diane Fossey or whoever, but just because I think that would be for my own curiosity, and I would share the wealth and put out anything that I discover out there to the world at large. But I think it would be cool if we could band together and do the right things to make the government recognize them. Although I kind of, like I've said in the past, I don't think that's going to happen easily. I think it's going to be very difficult to get the government to recognize them. I think it's going to happen, and probably by the end of my life, it'll happen. But it's going to be a battle, and it's going to take some serious confrontation. I think that it's going to be a Planet of the Apes kind of attack, not on the whole planet, but on like some small town somewhere. There's going to be like a group of Sasquatch that are going to come into town, and there's going to be a battle between the people and the Sasquatch. And I think that is going to probably be the situation that brings all of this to light, because the government won't be able to avoid it at that point. The way digital media is, and everyone's got a cell phone with cameras, if that kind of a confrontation occurred, it would be everywhere, and the government wouldn't be able to put a stop to it. And I think that's the kind of thing that it's going to take. But anyway, did I finish saying? Yeah, thanks for the prayers and the well wishes and that kind of thing. It was a tough situation, and I didn't, I wasn't a happy camper. I'm still not a happy camper. I've been into bodybuilding and that kind of thing, and I haven't been able to do any of that stuff in a while, and it's very disconcerting to me. And knowing that any minute I could have another attack that could be even worse than the last one. Not any minute, it doesn't happen that fast, but like tomorrow morning I could wake up and be in a worse situation than I was, back then. It's very disconcerting. And I mean, it's a given that my life is going to be shorter than it would have been. I'm going to end up, this is eventually going to kill me. It's going to be what results in my death eventually, unless I have like a heart attack or something, but one of those kind of things, some other death. But as far as the natural causes, it's not in the cards for me. It's going to be either, like everyone else, heart attack or cancer, or it's going to be this that kills me. But anyway, I wanted to thank everybody for the well wishes and all that stuff. I got way off topic here about the researchers and that kind of stuff. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have researchers like what I wanted the show tonight to be about, which is next week's show is going to be about Todd Standing and his documentary. What is it? Discovering Bigfoot. This is a 2-hour show. I've never seen the show before, and I ran across it on Netflix because I wasn't about to pay this dude money so I could watch this piece of crap. So I got this thing on. I mean, I saw those two, what was it, the Muppet pictures, those two pictures that you see. So I got this, it was on Netflix, and I ran across it, and I watched. I mean, it took me several days, because I'd get like 20 minutes into it and turn it off. Because it was, this guy, this whole video that he does is basically him trying to sell himself as like another Survivor man. That's completely obvious to me that that's what he's up to in this video. He has like drone footage of him running through the trees and running up the road and all of this crap, and driving his ATV up the road. Now, as I understand it, these places where he came across these Bigfoot and where he's videoed them, and every Bigfoot he's run across has been way out in the mountains somewhere where people can't. I mean, it's almost, it's difficult to hike out there. Only these expert hikers can get out there and all this crap, right? Yet he's got footage of himself in this documentary about discovering Bigfoot, where he supposedly has real footage of him riding this big tracked ATV up what looks like a logging road or something. And then he has footage of him on one of those 6-wheeled ATVs. And what the heck else? I think he had some other stupid thing. But, if you're supposedly going you're finding these Bigfoot way out in the mountains, what in the world are you doing putting this kind of footage in? The only reason there could be is because you're trying to sell yourself. This dude is I think he's more bent on getting his own show on some network somewhere than he is on, having Bigfoot recognized in Canada. You hear about them going to the Congress, the Canadian Congress, or whatever the hell they're called, and petitioning for them to recognize Bigfoot and protect it. This dude he's looking for attention from the media. Everything I'm absolutely convinced everything he does is only to attract attention to himself and to try and get himself some kind of notoriety. Now in next week's show, I've got some videos and some clips I took from his documentary. And how long we got here? How long have I been going? 27 minutes. All right. Next week's show, I'll do a much more in depth thing. But he's got. I've only ever seen those two images that I'm sure everybody has. Everybody who's listening to this has probably seen those two pictures of the Bigfoot. You got the one, where it looks like this, which is, some people have overlaid a picture of Todd Standing and say it's him in makeup. And then you have the other one that's just ridiculous. I mean, it looks like some kind of like, those round pillows that my grandmother used to have on the sofa. And then somebody sewed a bunch of Muppet hair or something to it and put a little dog nose in the middle of it and a couple of black eyes. I mean, there's no features whatsoever to this thing. It's like a completely featureless face with just hair sticking off of it. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. All right, those are the only two pictures I've ever seen or ever even heard anyone talking about. But there's a third Bigfoot in Todd Standing's documentary. There's a third one. That one is either real or he actually got somebody to put some prosthetic makeup together who actually knew what the hell they were doing. Because, can you talk more about my encounter? Or is it in a past show? Maria, what are you talking about? You mean when I saw the Bigfoot in the window? I'll wait a second because there's a delay here. Bear with me, people. Well, there's a White Mountain one. There was actually 3 encounters. The very first one is episode 1. Just go and listen to episode 1. That's the one I saw in the window. And then I did another one where I talked about the Bigfoot. I don't even know. I did see something standing there. It was either a person who was like some mountain man who was trying to scare me, who vanished, or it was a Bigfoot. And I talk about that happening up in the White Mountains, and that's in another episode. I think it says Hosts Encounters is the name of the episode. At least now. I change the names sometimes because sometimes they're not clear enough. But episode 1 is about the one I saw in the window. It was only like a few feet away from me, up in the window, staring at me and my cousins. So, yeah, you can watch that. That was actually what that is I took and edited my interview with Sasquatch Chronicles. I was interviewed on Sasquatch Chronicles, episode 56, and I grabbed that and I edited it down to where it was a little more concise or whatever. And that's my episode 1. So I might redo that, kind of go into a little more of the interesting aspects of that, maybe, or maybe I'll, cut some of this out and then make some commentary. I don't know. I've been thinking about doing that for a while. Y'all can comment and let me know if you'd like to do that. If y'all know anybody who's had an encounter and wants to come on the show and talk, I actually lost my cable. I have to buy a new cable to connect my phone into my mixing panel. But if y'all know anybody who's had an encounter, tell them to go ahead and email me, and I'll get them on the show. I mean, I've been out of it for so long now. I've kind of don't have, my stats went right in the toilet. I mean, almost within a week after I was in the hospital. So I've kind of have to get caught back up and start it all over again now and get some people to email me about coming on the show and that kind of stuff. So if you know anybody who wants to come on the show, there's my email address. Just have them email me and give me like a little tiny 1 paragraph about their encounter, and I'll get them to come on the show after I buy my new cable to put my phone on here. But Yeah, that's my situation right now. I'm gonna have to go back to doing my own commentary. Hold on a second. Didn't want to cough in the mic. I still got a little bit of a cough from that pneumonia or bronchitis or whatever the heck it was. So yeah, if you know anybody, go ahead and have them email me, and I'll have them come on the show. Or if you've had an encounter, go ahead and email me, and I'll have you come on the show. I know there's a couple of people who have emailed me who I guess don't know that I was out sick or whatever. The last couple of months, I have to get back with them and see what's going on. I think they're people I've had on before or I've talked to before, but I'm going to have to go back and look at that. Honestly, with all of this, I haven't done anything, and I have just sat on the couch. I'm now in my new house down in Alabama, and this is actually used to be my sister's house. And all this crap you see behind me there, right there, yeah, that's her crap. She still hasn't gotten it out of the house yet. I'm actually waiting for her to get, which should be sometime this week. She's supposed to clear this out. This house is all full of her crap so that I can get my crap out of the garage and start, putting this place together as my place. So, but she's had to get a storage unit and all that crap and been taking her time. So, but anyway, so all I've done is basically sat around here and watched TV and tried to get over the sickness and, did some exercises trying to strengthen my leg, and that's about it. This is going to be the most boring episode of mine that I've put up, I think. The other one where I did the update, I didn't even make it an episode. I just, it's just another video on my channel. But I am about to make some big changes for those of you who have stuck with me till now and watched till now. I'm planning to make a lot of changes in what I'm doing. I'm actually going to start doing some investigations here. Investigations, not research. I'm going to do some investigations here locally, if I can, of sightings that have gone on around here. I'm actually going to go out into the wooded areas around here and see if I can find anything that I would consider signs of Sasquatch activity. And I'm going to make videos, and I'm going to post those videos up, and occasionally I'll probably bring them on and, make a show about them if I find anything really interesting. Or if, I get out there and I start hearing, vocalizations and knocks and all that kind of stuff, then I'll make a whole episode about that. I'm also going to make... Oh, thanks, Patrick. Maria, I've just now got a yes. That's a heck of a long delay. I guess you're saying yes to my first encounter. That's episode 1. Episode number 1. That's my first encounter. But yeah, I'm going to also make another channel that's going to be dedicated to the whole process of getting the motorhome. I'm going to have videos on there where I go and actually go through motorhomes and discuss what I think the pros and the cons are about specifically using it to go out in the woods and look for Sasquatch. Because y'all know what I'm after. I'm after something where I can actually, it's not stuck in a parking lot. I want something that I can get off road somewhere to some degree. It might have to be flat ground. I mean, if I can get the vehicle I want, which is a military 5-ton with a shelter on the back, I can go anywhere. I could climb a mountain with that thing. That's my ultimate goal right there. But it's going to be difficult to do that. I might have to start out with some crappy Class C or whatever, in the beginning, and then try to work my way up. So the videos will start out with me going and checking out different motorhomes, and if I can't find one that will even be worth, going out looking for Sasquatch, then that'll be the case, and I'll have to wait longer until I can get something more appropriate. But all of that will be on that other channel, which once I set it up, I'll put a link on my Hypotheses channel, a link to that, or, you'll be able to find it. Also, because of the situation that I'm in, I can no longer work. I've actually applied for disability. I had stopped working at the factory, which I thought was because I was getting old. Turned out it was the MS. That was the beginning of the MS attacking me, is why I couldn't work my 12-hour shifts anymore. And so I can't do that anymore. And I started driving for like Uber and Lyft and non-emergency medical transport, which is ironic. But I can't do that anymore because it's my right leg. It's my driving leg. My driving leg is the one that went dead on me, and it's the one that's very weak right now. Hopefully, maybe in a couple more months, I'll be able to drive again. But in any case, right now I can't. I'm actually filing for Social Security, SSI, disability, or something like that. So, you know, I'm not going to beg, but I have a Patreon on my main channel page. There's a link in the header, down in the corner. There's a link to a Patreon, and if any of you guys want to support me and help me get through this crap until I can get a job or whatever, that would be greatly appreciated. And I'm planning on bringing a lot more content in that to the table as well. So if you'd be interested in doing that, it would be very appreciated. Let's see, where are we at? 37 minutes. This is probably the most boring episode I've ever done. I apologize for that. Next week, now that it took me a long time to get my camera working and everything, next week we'll go back to having a regular show that hopefully will be more interesting about Todd Standing and all that stuff. I'm going to point out some things about that documentary that are very suspect to me. There's only the one thing to me that I'm on the fence about, and I'm going to discuss why I don't call it completely real in that kind of thing. But anyway, I'm going to go into all of that next week. I'm now in Central Time instead of Eastern Time. So 9 o'clock Eastern was the time. Now it's having to be 8 o'clock Eastern. I might change the time that the show is on the weekends, because I think going a little later would be... Yeah, it's not. I guess. Yeah, I can't get SSD. I don't qualify for it because I had my own company for years and didn't pay myself, and therefore didn't pay into Social Security. I put all my money back into the company. So because of that, I don't qualify with that last 5-year deal. So I can't get SSD. The best I can do is SSI with disability. Anyway, what was I just saying? Yeah, so I'm now in Central Time. Put in the comments if you think that, are you the one I called a nutbag earlier? Or was it somebody else? Yeah, I called somebody. If that was you, sorry about that. I thought you were trying to go down a road to be smart with me about something. I've had a few of those. And I call them nut jobs. But we're all nut jobs, right? We believe in Bigfoot anyway. So if you have any particular time frame, because I hate to make it later, and then Sunday night everyone's got to work on a Monday, at least the lucky ones who can still work on a Monday. If you got a better time period, somewhere Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I want to change it to, but I want to make it a time that's enjoyable for people. Well, then sorry about that, Kevin. Enjoyable to people, to where it's a time period where they enjoy. They can sit down, they can relax, they can listen to the show. And then they don't have to worry about, oh my God, I've got only 7 hours of sleep. I got to get up at 5 a.m. or whatever. But go ahead and give me your opinion about that in the comments. But until next time, here's my information. Please, if you know anybody, if you're on any websites or whatever where you got people who have had encounters or anything like that, send them my way. There's my email address. And until the next time, y'all take care.